So I got this engine swapped, block head, everything. I was gonna reuse the old head, but it turns out all the valves were leaking for some reason. I have no clue how this car was so fast with every single exhaust valve leaking and intake valve. Maybe it's due to not running an air filter, who knows, but it was no good. So needless to say, this engine has a lot more compression because it's got fresh rings and the valves actually seal, so that's great. But if you remember correctly, I ported the ports on this head absolutely massive, so I had to port match the header, sort of. I could only get it so big, so the header is a bit smaller than the exhaust ports, but it's fine because that'll change because I got to rebuild that piece of junk anyway, or remake it. The intake manifold was the same story. The ports are way too big for it, so I had to weld up the perimeter of the manifold if I wanted this to work, and then sand it down and make it work and whatever. So the intake ports on the manifold are actually smaller than what's on the head, but you know, I'll get to why none of that really matters to me right now in a bit, but that's what I had to do to get this to work. So of course the intake was cracked, had to repair that. Around cylinder 1 was cracked, the flange was bowed, was blowing sealant out of there, there's a whole bunch of stupidness. So I went back to a paper gasket once again, like I used to run. I just used sealant one time because I got lazy and just decided to do that. But now I have actual, sorry? It's a Saab. So of course, you know, it's not ideal to have smaller manifolds than your ports are in the head, but again, the whole reason I was swapping this engine and whatever is so that I have fresh internals, fresh mechanical stuff, so I'm not worried about it just blowing up when I'm testing and enjoying the car, because that's kind of what I want to do. So the header in the collector was cracked around almost every single runner. It was cracked here. I welded that. It looks ugly because I welded it from the inside. A bunch of stuff there, so losing a ton of spool. The exhaust manifold and the intake manifold will get rebuilt, but again, it's the middle of summer, or it's actually almost the end of summer. It's August, so again, if I take the car offline for the rest of the season, I have no car to drive for the rest of the summer, so there's that. Anyway, aside from the engine, you know what went into that. Top to bottom is new basically, except for the valve covers and stuff, new cams and everything. So I managed somehow an hour of runtime in this parking lot of engine break-in, and then this car is light enough and has good enough brakes so I can get it to spool, and then, you know, get some nice decel to bed the rings in a bit. So everything's set. Oil pressure looks great. Oil pressure is even better than the old engine, which is fantastic. And then the old engine really didn't have anything wrong other than maybe the valves not sealing properly and loss of compression. I still haven't taken it apart. The oil filter was clean when I cut it open, but we'll see when we look at it. But nothing was really wrong with that. It's just the clearances were slightly bigger, which is why oil pressure's better on this engine. Turbo wise, just threw the same turbo back on, everything. Transmission I actually had apart, but I didn't do anything to it. I just pulled it apart to make sure, I don't know, no hubs were cracked. Like I said before, keep on cracking synchro hubs, bunch of stupid stuff like that. So it looked all right inside, but the one thing I did do is took out the reverse gear synchro, because if you do the math, reverse gear spins at like 35,000 RPM at like 250-ish. So, and then that's spinning against the direction of the synchro. So the synchro somehow ends up eating itself every single time I take this gearbox apart, just probably from lateral G, just maybe making it touch the cone a bit or something. But since it's spinning so fast, it just turns itself into dust every time, and then I end up with no reverse gear after a while. So I'm running out of synchros. I took the synchro out, and go figure, it goes into reverse even better now. All you gotta do is wait a sec for the gearbox to stop spinning so that you don't grind it, and it just goes in. So I don't know why I was running a synchro there to begin with. So, but that's all I changed, threw it back together. It's got the same tall 1.12 third gear that I was running at Motorsports in it. And just decided to leave that just because even if I'm going to Cayuga just to drive, I won't be on the limiter in third anymore. I can actually just stay in third and it'll be fine. Maybe the car will be a bit slower, but whatever. But all in all, with this engine swap deal, the car should pick up a ton of power just from compression alone and the better ports. So even though the manifolds don't match up perfectly, it should run much better and it feels better. Even cranking on the starter, you can feel that the compression is actually there now. But yeah, it runs way smoother, way better, and it spools properly now because the manifolds aren't busted up, so that's great. So without even questioning it, if I took this car back to Motorsport the way it is now, I mean put the slicks back on and set it up, it would easily go like a 1.5 seconds faster just from the engine running better and the spool being there and it not breaking up and whatever. But unfortunately I can't go back and set a record for the rest of the year, and like I've been saying, my competitive battery is kind of depleted right now, so I kind of just want to have fun with the car and not stress myself out. So in efforts to recharge my competitive battery, I just want to go drive and have fun in this car. And now I'm getting to the twist. If you haven't noticed already, I don't know if the GoPro picks it up properly inside the car, I actually put a passenger seat in the car. So this door isn't bolted on, by the way. I picked up a seat from my good buddy Spage, Alex. He wasn't using this seat, so yeah, now we have a passenger seat, so now I can scare the crap out of some people and then maybe get some good videos out of it too. I felt like it was due. There's a space for a seat in the car, so why not run one, right? So it just kind of makes a little bit of sense. Obviously I'm weighing the car down, but if you're not competing, none of it matters, right? So maybe I can put some smiles on some faces and put some smiles back on my face, doing some fun stuff, and it'll be great. So I actually finished mounting this yesterday. There's no harness yet. I gotta actually take the flat floor off and drill holes through the floor and do all that, put the anchors in so it's all safe, and then I gotta actually relocate the battery. So yeah, you can see the mounts just under here, so I might just drop it down further through the floor or put it behind, I don't know. And then I gotta put the extinguisher back, and you know the deal. I don't really have much competition planned for the rest of the year. Like, I might go to an event just to do passenger rides, but you know, again, sometimes you're having fun too and you might even go faster, right? So we'll see. But adding 200 pounds to a car, that's like almost a couple seconds worth of weight, most likely. But yeah, other than finishing the seat mounting, putting the harness in and stuff, cleaning up because there's shavings everywhere, cutting and welding, bolting the door on, of course. All I gotta do is maybe zip tie some wires into place the way I like it, just so everything's routed nicely, because everything flails around under cornering force. And the car is basically ready to go again. I took my slicks off, I scraped them, I put them away. We're just gonna be running Nankangs until we have use for the slicks, because they actually still have some good heat cycles left in them. So other than that, not much more to say. That was the twist, the passenger seat. So subscribe to get notified when I post those videos of passenger rides. Oh yeah, here's what I wanted to talk about. RTV. If you notice, I use RTV on my exhaust manifolds, and I do this on my daily driver with a big turbo as well. It's been like 10,000 clicks and it's fine. It does not leak at all. So I'm not telling you to do this. This is just the way I do stuff. I use RTV for stuff like that because I take it apart all the time and I put it back together, and to keep buying exhaust manifold gaskets is just gonna cost too much money. And then this works, there's no denying it. So I don't care what anyone has to say about it, that's why I use it. And that's the same RTV I use on the head gasket. And there were some comments about using too much sealant, etc, etc. The thing you have to understand about the VFRs is that the rings are thicker than the plate, so even when you torque it down, the plate still has like a 5/1000ths, 4/1000ths air gap when you first torque it down, until the rings like dig into the head and actually sit. So you need to fill those voids with sealant. And it's something like maybe a timing cover, I use anaerobic flange sealant, but you use such a small amount because it's a zero clearance fitment. So since the actual timing cover is butting right up to the block, it squeezes all of the sealant out. So you don't want to use too much, or else all the sealant ends up in your oil. In the case of the head gasket, you need to use a lot because there's a small air gap, and then it actually needs to sit in there and seal it. The sealant blurts out into the coolant jackets, but the coolant jackets are already blocked off by the restrictions in the gasket. And then also around the timing cover area, once you put it on, you just wipe the excess, and then that's about it, so it doesn't get in the oil. Like, these engines don't have a drain back on each head stud, so you don't have to worry about extra sealant being in the head stud spots, except for the first head stud, which is the oil feed to the lifters and the cams and everything to the head. So just make sure you don't put too much sealant there and you'll be good. But using a liberal amount on the coolant jackets will just save you a headache because it'll seal the first time. That being said, you can use whatever sealant you want. You can try whatever you want. This head gasket isn't really made for like the faint of hearted. This isn't made for everybody. It's not like every car should run a VFR. No, this is for like people who want to make tons of power and not have to worry about it. This is for this car that does like almost 45 seconds straight of wide open throttle per lap, and it needs to work every lap. I can't be bothered bleeding coolant and doing all that stuff. So sealing the plate with whatever sealant you want, whatever you like. I know there's some black aviation engine stuff that's good for head gaskets. I know Nelson Race Engines or something uses it. I've seen that. But again, this stuff's so easy to clean when I'm taking stuff apart and rebuilding, and it just works. Again, I have the same sealant on my daily driver and it just works. That there's no point in me finding something else to use. So by me selling VFR gaskets, it basically gives you all the equipment you need to figure out your own solution. So use the red RTV, seal it up good, and you'll be done. Or you can experiment, find something better, and then maybe you don't even have to tell anybody about it because you found a secret. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's a racing head gasket for a reason with the vents. Again, you won't find vented fire rings on any street car at all, ever. So it's only meant for a certain kind of person who understands what they're buying, who has a big horsepower car and then drives the crap out of it and can't be bothered with coolant overflow every single time they drive. So on that bombshell, time to end. And oh yeah, my coolant's black because I have evapor rust in there, because this block had so much rust in the coolant galleries. I literally just run evapor rust. I used to run thermocure, but evapor rust works just as well. But once again, all the stuff I do is just some crazy shit. It's not for everybody. Like, I took this engine out, and because it's a dry sump and because it has electric power steering, I didn't have to drain any fluids really other than gear oil and coolant. And then I put it right back in with the same oil that's in the tank because the oil was clean, the filter was clean and everything. And then there's 20 liters of it, so it takes forever for it to get diluted with fuel. So only I can do stuff like that. That's not for you guys. Some of you guys might say I would never let you work on my car because of stuff like that, and it's fine because I'm not working on your car, I'm working on my car. So that's the fact of the matter. No hard feelings. That's just what I wanted to say. Anyway, see you at the track, and subscribe if you want to see some people get scared in the passenger seat. Oh yeah, and sorry for the never-ending video, but I will be tearing this engine down in a future video. But it's just not important right now because I don't need it yet. If you remember the title of the video of this engine build, it was supposed to be an engine for a secret car. So that's actually going to be the engine going in the secret car, because I realized the secret car doesn't need that much horsepower. So I need as much horsepower as I can get in this thing, but the secret car will be a lot lighter, so 500 will be fine. And I just want to fix this and put it in as is without touching the ports or doing anything crazier to it, because it already makes 700 on full bore. So that's fine. Anyway, peace out for real this time.